agreeing to do this. I really appreciate it. Take off my
Oh, thank
glasses
you.
now. So you're a horror writer. That's your interest. That's the feeling that I got from looking at your your Twitter bio.
Yeah.
Twitter.
Yes, I write horror. I dabble in other things too, like I like fantasy and sci-fi,
Oh,
but
nice.
so I kind of use both. Like I use all of it too,
Hmm.
and I do. So yeah.
So I was curious, like, when did you start writing? Do you remember?
Oh yes, I do actually. My first foray into writing anything was um I wrote a short story for my seventh grade class. And we
Oh,
had to
okay.
make an illustrated book.
Uh-huh.
It was short, but it could have been longer, but I was like, I think 12, 11 or 12 at the time. So, it definitely wasn't something that like, it's like serious, but I did want to incorporate it later. But yeah. Yeah, hang on, I got the jitters.
Do you
um,
remember what it was about?
Yes, it was a story. It was a horror story, actually.
Oh, lovely.
It was like, wow, even back then. It was about a girl who used her mind to kill everyone in the world because she was mad. And
You'd be reported these days. It'd be like
right?
counselors for you.
Yeah. So like in the story, like I drew like a set of eyes and clouds. It's like there's just, it just shows up big eyes. It's like, why was there big eyes and clouds? I don't know. But
Sounds good to me.
yeah, I mean, and then there's one person or maybe a couple people who end up living past that who like die first and they come back. And so they're
Ooh.
immortal.
Oh,
And I
nice.
was like, and then there's a unicorn somewhere in there.
Of
I mean,
course, of
I was
course. I
12.
mean, what's a horse
It could
story
have a
without a
unicorn.
unicorn? Come on.
It was fun, and it was a lot of fun to draw. I'm not a very good artist. Like I try.
Oh, join the club. I'm not either. I'm sure you're better than me, actually. We could have a
Mm.
we could have a contest here. Who's the worst?
Oh God. Well, I've been practicing a little. My daughter's been having me draw Pokemon and like all kinds of things. Pokemon, Paw Patrol,
Oh,
that's her
nice.
thing right now. So,
How old is your daughter?
oh, she's 5.
Oh,
Yeah, she's 5.
lovely.
Yeah,
Lovely. That's
yeah.
nice.
Had to wait so late because she tends to go to bed a little later,
Hmm.
and I can't yeah, I can't talk when she's awake. So,
No, no, I totally get that. That's perfectly okay. Yeah, and I don't want to keep you for too long. So if you get tired and you have to go, just tell me. That's perfectly fine.
oh yeah, no, I'm okay right now. I'm
Okay.
jittery. If like full of caffeine or something.
Are you drinking coffee?
Actually, I am drinking Earl Grey.
Oh, nice. I love Earl Grey, Captain Picard. Anyway.
Hmm. That's exactly where I got that from.
Yeah, me too. Me too. Oh my
Yay,
gosh. Okay, we're
trivia.
gonna get along fine.
Yes. Yeah, like I said, I'm a huge sci-fi fan. Like I grew up reading Dune.
Yes, yeah.
I read several Star Wars books when I was like 10.
Oh,
The
nice.
ones that are like this thick, and I
Uh-huh.
was 10 years old, no joke. And I read Dune when I was that old. And I probably read
Wow.
Dune like, I don't know, maybe like 8, 9 times. And, honestly, I can't get past the first one. I've read the first one. And then I think I've read the second
What
and
is
the
that?
third.
God Emperor of Dune? Is that the next one?
Yeah, I think God Emperor, there was Children of Dune and then
Oh,
God
yeah, yeah, that's
Emperor.
right. That's the
Yeah,
third one. Right.
yeah, yeah. And, I read the three of them, but my favorite was the first one.
It's
And it
good.
was the
It's
same
good.
way with the Anne McCaffrey books. And I'm like, I only read Dragon's Dawn. What's wrong with me? I'm like, I can't like get past that first one.
Hey, you know what you like. I
Mm.
respect that.
Yeah, my main influence though, um, growing up was a guy named Raymond E. Feist. He
I
wrote
haven't heard of.
something called The Rift Wars. I've read those probably the whole entire series. The first, it's like a set of 4 books, I do believe, and I've probably read them at least 150, 200 times. I mean,
Wow,
yeah, I'm not even
that's
joking.
cool.
So,
Okay.
and I've been reading them since I was like,
Well, how do you
10.
spell his last name?
Feist, Feist.
Okay, Feist. Sorry. Okay. All right. Well, I'm gonna have to check him out. That's quite
Yeah,
the
he's really good.
recommendation.
Yeah, he is really good. In fact, I don't know. I always compared him to Tolkien, but Tolkien's a lot more flowery,
Mm,
whereas Feist is a lot more down to earth. And down to earth is how I write. I try to keep it simple. He wrote a book called Fairy Tale, Faerie Tale. And it's a book about a writer who moves his family to basically the middle of nowhere. I think it's Maine.
mm,
And out kind of like it's in the country a little bit. And they end up having this encounter with fairy people, you know. So, and just it's like a horror novel. Like it really is. And I was reading it when I was really young and very much not really ready for the kind of subject matter that it had.
okay. How old were you, if
But
you don't mind my asking?
oh,
No.
I
How old
am
were you when you read that? When you read that,
oh,
like as a child? I'm guessing you were a child.
between 10 and 12, was yeah, that's
So you
before I
think
moved
that
back
maybe
from.
to be a bit older, you wish if you could do it again that you were a little bit older when you read that?
No, no,
Okay.
actually, I devoured books like from the second that I was able to read. Like,
Oh, me too. Yeah.
yeah, I was all over it. I've
No, I was
read
just
a
curious
lot.
about your opinion about that because I have friends with children, and one of them, I think she read all the Harry Potter books herself, but she wouldn't read them to her kids until they were like 8 or something like that. And I always wondered about that. And I mean, obviously, I mean, she did a wonderful job raising her children. I mean, like she was an absolutely wonderful mother. But I was wondering, like, you're a fan of horror and you have a 5-year old, and I don't know. Have you? What sort of books do you read your child? Like, would you read her Harry Potter? I'm guessing you've read them.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Oh, yes. I'm a huge Harry Potter fan.
yeah, me too.
I've read them a lot. And her story is inspiring to
It
me.
is.
So, I
Yeah.
it is. And so and at the time that I first heard about her books, it was very weird because I was having an idea about a similar story and I
Oh,
was like,
really?
"Ah, crap, I can't write that anymore."
No,
I was like,
you
"Oh no, I
probably
don't want
could
to do."
because I'm sure you would take it in a unique direction because, we all have our unique perspective on the world.
Mhm.
At least that's what I think. So I think two people could be given exactly the same idea and yet they would write it in distinct ways.
Yeah, that's something that I've had to convince myself, is that, I'm not gonna be that person, like, I'm not gonna write the exact same thing like you were saying, and it's something that, because for a while there, I thought, "Oh, everything's been written,"
Mhm.
and it was very depressing, and yeah, so I was like, "No, no, not everything's been written, just, get up off your deck and just do it." But, yeah, that's that's pretty much it. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, I definitely would read her, Harry Potter, and if she'd sit still long enough for me to do it, because right now she's pinging off the walls, and
Oh, yeah.
I can read her, they're called How to Catch a Monster book and How to Catch a Unicorn and How to Catch a
Oh,
Dinosaur.
lovely.
So I have to read all 3 of them to her, generally every night.
Oh, yes.
Um, but
I
I've
was like that
tried
too.
to.
I had my favorites and I got my mom to read and reread and reread and reread.
I had, I have tried to read her The Hobbit, I'm inspired a little bit by the character Charlie off of Supernatural, always going in and
Oh,
reading her
oh
mom,
yeah,
The
Charlie.
Hobbit.
That's the what's her name? Felicia. Oh, what's her
Felicia
name?
Day.
Yeah, that's it. That's it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
really love that
she's pretty
character.
awesome. So, and I kind of had that idea. I was like, you know what? Let me read her The Hobbit. So I sat down to read her The Hobbit, and I got like maybe past maybe 5 pages in, and she was just started babbling. She was just off in her own little world, and I'm like, I guess not, not yet. No.
Oh, yeah. That's kind of like that. That's gotta hurt a little bit when you're reading your child a story that you love and they're not. But maybe it's her age. Maybe
Mm.
that's just a little bit. Maybe give her a couple of years and she'd be different. It would be different.
Yeah, I hope so. I really do. She inspires me a bit,
Hmm. Yeah.
because she loves Halloween, anything having
Oh,
to do
me
with
too.
Halloween.
Yeah, yeah.
So,
I'm
and
guessing you're a
she,
Halloween fan too.
oh yes, yes, I'm all over Halloween. It's just not a fashion statement.
Oh,
It's just my
hey.
whole wardrobe. I was like, I'm all over Halloween, y'all. But yeah, she loves Halloween. And so for a while there, I've been writing just off and on. And but the more I realized how much she really likes Halloween, the more I was like, well, I should just pick up back and start, you know, finish some of these books that I've started.
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
I finished one last year. And it's been sitting in my edit pile for a little
Mm.
while because I was like, man, I'm not satisfied with it. It's just not got that, whatever it is that a story needs.
It
And
sounds like you might be a little bit too critical of, when it comes to your own writing. I think that's a tendency that a lot of writers have. I mean, I don't want to presume to like.
oh yeah, you're absolutely on the
Yeah.
mark. Because I'm like, when I started writing on Twitter, and getting noticed, it was actually a shock
Hmm.
that anybody would read anything that I wrote, that even just those little blurbs that I've posted, because I've posted, I think I counted them yesterday, it was like 170 something
Wow,
since middle of February.
that's a lot. Good for you.
Yeah.
Good
you-
for you.
like, but so I've been doing that all the time, and I was so surprised that I had anybody liking what I was writing. And so it's just sort of helping me a little. Although my
Hmm.
prose, nobody knows what my prose looks like yet. So I'm just like, I don't
Well,
know if that's gonna be good either. And
yeah. I mean, I don't want to get too personal or anything like this, but have you submitted any of your work or out to like publishing houses or agents or?
no, actually, um, and I'm not sure why, because I've been doing all the research and figuring out how to do it.
Hmm.
It's just maybe it's just that fear of rejection.
Yeah,
And maybe just feeling like I'm not quite done yet.
I
I
get
want it to
that.
be polished and done. And I have so many short stories now, like that are finished,
Hmm.
that can be published. And I was thinking about publishing them on Amazon, but I'm like, should I publish like a 2 page
Well,
thing?
have you talked to an editor, like a good content editor?
Actually, no, I haven't. No.
It would be an idea,
Mhm.
because they can probably like talk to an experienced content editor, and they could give you a really good indication, probably of where you're at and recommendations. And you wouldn't even have to do it for all of them. Like if you did it for maybe one or two, like you could get an idea. You could gauge where your writing was at, maybe.
Mhm. Yeah, yeah, that's a good idea. It really is a good idea because content editor. Let me write that down. Where is my
Do you
notepad?
have a copy of like the writer's market? I think that's what it's called. It's
Mm-hmm.
that, huge book, like that
I
tome.
don't have a copy right now, no, but I have. I have a subscription to Poets and Writers, so I get
Okay.
on there a lot.
There's
You know,
also what, the
because
Submission Grinder. I think it's a free website.
submission grinder.
Yeah, let me just Google that to make sure. Yeah, the Submission Grinder, and it's a free site. It's pretty good. Like I found it helpful because I
All
really
right.
think that you should. I mean, I'm guessing that you've read Stephen King.
Oh, yes. Oh,
Love
yes.
that smile.
Mhm. Yes, I have read quite a bit of Stephen King, and I gotta say I'm more a fan of his older stuff than I am of the newer, although I did like The
Okay,
Outsider. Very good book.
I haven't read that one.
uh, oh yeah, it's fairly new. I let someone borrow it, otherwise I'd show it off because I'm like, oh yes, this is a good book. You should read
Okay, well, The Outsider. All right, I'll make a note of
it.
that.
Yep.
Have you read
Yeah.
On Writing? His
Yes.
book?
In fact, I have it over here. It's
Yeah,
right on my
yeah.
bookshelf.
I have
Love
it
that book. Oh, there she goes.
right here. Yeah.
Oh, yep. Let's see, where's mine? It should be easy to get a hold of. Oh, no, no, no. There it is. I think that's it. Nope. That is
Comes
another
back with a
book.
severed hand.
Oh, gosh. Yes, well, I mean, my bookshelf is full. And I was like, I need another bookshelf, y'all. I need another one. I need like a whole wall over here.
Yeah, well, me too.
Books.
Well,
I just moved in this house, so back in September. So, we're still trying to get everything together. That's why I
oh
was like,
yeah,
oh,
yeah,
it's so
yeah.
bare bones in this house. I was like,
Well,
wow.
that's good. I
Yeah.
see Raggedy Ann back there, or Andy. Is that Andy?
I think it's just a weird cloth doll. I thought
Oh,
she
okay.
looked creepy.
Oh, okay.
So she's been out since like September, just
Hmm.
before Halloween, I guess. I was like, she's a good Halloween doll. And I just never put her away. I'm like, you know what?
That
We'll just
works.
leave you there. I gave her a ball to play with.
I love that. It's so creepy.
I don't know. I think I'm just creepy in and of itself. I really
Oh, that's
am.
creepy in the best possible way.
Hmm. Yeah. I think we've incorporated Halloween type stuff just in our house in general. And because my boyfriend is one of the members of the Hysteria Continues slasher podcast.
Okay, what's that called
So
again?
it's the Hysteria Continues. They're
Okay.
really awesome, very funny guys. And he's like he's super into anything horror. So we're pretty much a horror family. I don't know.
Simpatico. Yeah.
Yes. Yes, and we were like, she likes Halloween and she loves ghosts and skeletons, and yeah, we're all over it. She's gonna grow up wild and good. So
Oh, that's good.
yeah.
So I think okay, so I had a few questions kind of jotted down, and I think
Mhm.
we've covered, like, your favorite horror books and, authors and all of that. And and it was really good that you, like, a lot of people that I talked to about, like, how old were you when you started to write, they don't really have like an origin story, but you did. I thought that was really cool. Do you still have that story that you did, or is it sort of lost to the mists
Um,
of time?
and I think my mom and dad might have it somewhere in their stuff,
Okay.
so it may be buried, but then again, it may not be.
Yeah.
I've written quite a few things. I was in the Young Authors Fair around here and
Oh,
won for my
nice.
grade and for a poem that I wrote, um, which now that I think, yeah. So I wrote a poem and I got it submitted and everything. So I won that. And then that's like the only thing I think writing wise that I've, kind of been out there doing other than this Twitter thing. And I wrote a short story, and my boyfriend converted it to uh,
Oh, nice.
screenplay. We were gonna do a movie on it, and we just, it's just been so hectic,
Mhm.
and
Mhm.
but he's got me up on IMDb, so, I'm out there.
Very nice.
Woohoo.
Very nice.
I was like, "Let's share
Oh,
that around."
well, when you do it,
So
send me a link.
I will. Yeah, I
Okay.
definitely will. Um, what was I trying to
So,
redirect me here because I'm going brain dead.
so you've talked about when you first started to write, which was pretty early, like grade 7, you were saying.
Mhm.
Do you remember when you learned how to read? Like, did you learn how to read in school, or did you learn
Mm.
before then, or?
Before, yeah, my mom and dad taught me before I started going to kindergarten because of the time that I was born. I guess when the way my birthday fell, like I was 5, like just like 2 months, like a month or so after school started.
What month
So I
is your
had to be held
birthday?
back. October
Me too, October the 26th.
21st.
Oh, there we go. So you're
Yeah.
Libra, right?
Libra, Scorpio. I'm a cusp
Yeah.
baby. Oh
Yeah, me
yes.
too. Well, sort of. I guess, yeah. Yeah, you would be more on the cusp, I guess, than I would be. But yeah, I'm
Yeah, I was
Scorpio.
born at night. So I was like, you know what?
Yeah, me
10
too.
days from Halloween, every birthday party was Halloween themed. I mean, my life has been full of that type stuff.
It was fate. Like really, it was inevitable.
I think so. I think that's exactly what it is. Yeah. The first story I wrote was like when I was about 12. The first poem I wrote was when I was in the ninth grade. And, it was during like some weird family drama. So, and then I wrote a song around the same time, which was like creepy.
So, do
I
you
was,
find that your poems are sort of horror themed, or are they different, or?
well, usually I write my poetry as an outlet,
Mhm,
like an emotional outlet. So usually most of my poetry is very angry,
mhm.
um, just very like, or just odd. But you know, now that I think about it, horror, I guess, really did play a big role in most of my poetry. Like there was one, and it's short, and I wrote it when I was really, really young, but it was like kind of inspired by Legend, the movie Legend. I don't know if you
Okay,
remember
right, right.
that.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, I watched that one.
um,
It's a long time ago,
so
but
it
yeah.
was like fire, fire burning high. Yeah, fire, fire, burning higher, firefly, light the fire, pull the flame, put it out, you're insane.
Wow, that's amazing that you can remember that. I like that.
Uh, yeah, I think my memory for that kind of thing was good, but everything else is like it's shot. Like I'm 38 now. I'm 38, and I'm
Yeah.
just like, ugh.
Really, I would not have said that. I would have said 28.
Oh, you're so sweet. Yay, 28. I'll stay 28 forever. Thanks.
There we go. Well, I say like I've turned 29 like quite a few times by now, so
Yeah, yeah. My sister is turning 29 like for the eighth or ninth time now.
there
I
we
don't
go.
know.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Well, wait, she's younger than me, so yeah, about 8 or 9, maybe. I don't know. No math, no math. I love math, but just right now can't do it.
Yeah. Oh, no, I hear that.
Mhm,
So I was curious. Now, would do you write every day? Do you try to write every day? Like I'm wondering
mhm.
about like your like as a writer, what your patterns are. And I yeah.
Um, well, it took me a little while to get a routine started, because I suffer from depression a lot, real chronic depression.
A lot of
So it
writers
comes
do.
and
Yeah.
it goes and it comes and it goes. So, to kind of get me through that, because I knew that inevitably I was going to get depressed again, which
Mhm,
is usually just sort of a lethargy type thing for me. It's like nothing, I don't know, it's just dark.
mhm.
Like I said, I'm
Yeah.
dark. So,
Yeah.
but so I decided that I would start writing every day.
Nice.
I wrote something every day, whether it was a journal or a poem
Mhm.
or a small little blurb, it didn't matter what it was. Um, so I would write like I started working on a book um, at the beginning of 2020. And my goal was to write 2,000 words every week
Good.
because I said to myself, self, if you go any higher than that, then you're going to get discouraged.
Yep.
And so, because, I can sit down sometimes and I can pump it out and it just comes.
Mhm.
But then other times it's like, it's a struggle.
Yeah.
I can write 10 words and so but I sit down and I put myself in a writer mood.
Mhm.
And I'm like, I'm going to do this. So I sit down and I write every day. Um Twitter's really been helping me with that.
In what way?
Well, we do there's a lot of prompts and so I have just been finding all these different prompt words and tags and whatever and just going to town with it. So there's about 3 or
Oh
4
yeah,
of
yeah,
them.
yeah. That's cool. I've done that a few times.
Yeah, and I've been doing it now for like a month.
Mhm.
And honestly, I didn't think that I'd enjoy it. I figured, I'd get bored with it or something. But I have been enjoying it a lot. In fact, it's kind of taken away from the poetry book that I'm supposed to be working on.
Yes, Twitter. It's a bit of a plus and a bit of a minus sometimes. But
Hmm.
do you find that in general, like writing, does it help when you get a little bit down, or is it just sort of like not too related to that? Like, is it something that is part of, like, I know some people have talked to me about how they use meditation when they're depressed or anxious,
Hmm.
and some people do, I think they journal, and they find that helps. Like, do you find it at all writing therapeutic at all?
Hmm.
Yeah.
Hmm. Yeah, I sit down sometimes and I'll write letters to people that I don't ever send.
Oh yes,
Um,
done that.
I'll be like, I'm super mad at you, or you're making me feel this way. And so it's a way of me getting back control under for like my emotions and stuff. But yes, writing in and of itself, every kind of writing, um, it helps me a lot with the depression and like with the anxiety and stuff. It's like I have to have something to let out, and I always call it letting out my demon.
Mm,
I'm letting out my demons.
right, right.
I sit down, I write, I let them out.
Hmm.
And then, I get exhausted and I pass out.
Yeah.
Generally while I'm writing.
Yeah. Well, hey, that's a
I got
good
my
way. You
fingers on the
just go to
keys.
bed, right?
Hmm. I'm like, I got my fingers on the keys and I wake up having typed like, 100 eyes or something. I'm like, what's wrong with me? I need to fall asleep with a computer in your lap.
Well, I'm gonna have to try that. The next time I can't get to sleep, I'll just, I'll try that out.
Hmm.
Um,
Yeah, it works sometimes, I guess. I mean, I'm
do you?
narcoleptic, so
Okay, all right.
yeah.
I had no. I knew someone actually. I had a friend who was narcoleptic. Yeah, that's a little
Mm.
bit scary, I guess, if you're driving or something like that.
Ah, yes. Yeah, I call people while I'm driving. Yeah. Yeah, I annoy everyone in my family. I'm like, hey, I'm going to call and talk to you for like the 20 or 30 minutes that it takes me to drive home. Just hang with me. I'm just going to talk nonstop. It's okay. I have the gift of gab. It's like,
Well, I would think that would come in very handy as a writer.
it kind of does. And then it kind of doesn't. Just like maybe I talk too much and I don't listen enough.
Have you
So hopefully
tried?
not.
I know some writers, they like to do dictation. Like they'll carry like a recorder around, and so when they go walking, have you ever tried that?
Oh, yes. I used to do that. But
Yeah.
then I found that I wasn't going back in and listening to anything.
Mm,
So I was getting a huge backlog of recordings, So what I started doing instead was I pull out the notepad on the phone
mhm.
and I pull up a note and turn on the little microphone and write myself a note that way if I'm
Oh, okay.
driving or
Mhm,
something.
mhm.
Um, but I haven't here lately since we've been in this pandemic thing. I haven't had to do that, so I'm wondering if I should try to do that anymore. I'm trying again.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
go for it. And I find that they're getting a bit better, like as time goes on, like the dictation, the voice
Mhm.
recognition software that they're using.
Yeah. And I don't know if you can detect it, but I have a slight southern accent, so
I love it. It's gorgeous.
yeah, I don't know about that.
Well, I have a Canadian accent, and I know it gets fuddled with me sometimes. It's like I do not
Mhm.
understand. So
Yeah, I'll say something and it just won't register and it'll just type in the wrong thing for like a whole sentence. I'm like, I gotta go back. Hit that backspace button. What's wrong with you? Or I'll have to say it with enunciation, like complete diction
I
here.
know, so irritating.
Yeah. I'm like, I'm saying the number 4.
Yes, yeah.
I love it.
Well, and I have a certain device, electronic assistant from Amazon, Alexa. I won't say her name or she'll go off, but
Mm,
she can't tell the difference between 15 and 50.
ah,
So I
yep,
can never
that's a big
set a
one.
timer for 15 minutes. It has to be 16 or 14. You know?
Mm-hmm. Like 15.
Yeah.
Well, I was in chorus for a very long time. Like
Oh, I was in
back when I
chorus
was in
too.
high school.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So I was like, I've practiced diction. I mean, I'm good. I'm like, I thought I was good. And now I'm like, has my voice just gotten lazier or something? And it's like,
No,
yeah.
I don't think. I think it just depends on what they're trained on, and I think they tend to train the on a standard accent, which
Hmm.
apparently I
Yeah,
don't
the
have.
standard.
So
The Northwestern accent, which, we were considering a move up Northwest, and I was like, are they gonna like us up there? We all sound a little country over here. I mean, we're not country, but we sound country, I guess. And so I was like, oh no, let's not say we did.
oh, that's funny. I'm glad I'm sorry, maybe that's selfish, but I'm glad you've had your trials and tribulations in that sense too. Makes me
Hmm.
feel not alone. Um,
No need to be feeling alone. We're all there with you. Everybody down here.
yeah.
We hate talking to Alexa. I
Yes, there we go.
don't
There we
have
go.
mine. I don't have Alexa.
Do
Like,
you
no
use any
Alexa
sort
here.
of digital assistant like
Mm-mm.
Google or Siri or anything?
No, I mean, I get on Google, but I'm very old school. I prefer to type everything, or I handwrite
Oh, me too. Yeah.
tons of stuff. In fact, I handwrote my whole poetry book.
Mm.
Um, and I'm thinking about handwriting my whole like next novel
Okay.
because it seems to work better.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean that's I find a lot of times I have to do the first draft handwritten, and then I type it
Mhm.
in and I revise on the, but I sometimes I can do that. Sometimes I can just like type it into the computer, but I make my own journals and I've got quite the stack now over the years.
Mhm. Mhm. You
Yeah.
make your own journal. I just
Yeah,
caught that.
that's
You make them. That's cool. Yeah,
yeah,
that's
and it's
awesome.
it's a lot cheaper too. And I do like it feels different. Like it feels, I've made this and I try to make them out of found materials. Like,
Mhm.
things I would throw away or like brown paper bags and and then I stick like cloth onto them and like just go to town and
Yeah,
but anyway.
I made a book one time. As part of, it was the Young Authors Fair, I think, at that point, and we made like pulp books,
Oh,
out
neat.
of, the paper
Uh-huh.
pulp.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
That was really fun. But and it would be a good hobby to get into now that we've like, we can't really go out too much. So, but
Yeah.
right now I work on perler bead art and just ran like crochet and just
Oh, I crochet
anything.
too.
Yes. I'm like, there's just something about the patterns.
Yeah.
Like it's just like counting.
Uh,
And all it is counting. And that's what I tell everybody. I'm like, it's counting intention.
Oh yeah, tension. Do
Yeah.
you knit as well?
No. No, I don't know if I'm not coordinated enough. Like I'm not coordinated enough. I would love to because knit hats and knit scarves are really nice. So it's just like
Yes. Well, they are. Yeah.
and knit socks and knit mittens and oh well, it's okay. I like making hats and I make amigurumi,
You make
which
what?
is amigurumi, which
What?
is they are it's Japanese for stuffed toy.
Oh, yes, yes. Okay, I know what you're.
Yes.
I think I know what you're saying. I think I know
Yeah.
what that is.
Bulbous little heads with
Hmm.
like just wide set eyes. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Tiny
They're
little
really cute.
smiles. Yeah, I love them. And I've made so many toys for just various people in my family. I'm like, here's something, have that. And I'm like, do y'all still have that? You better still have it.
Do
I've
they?
made so many
And they
hats.
produce
Oh
it?
my Yep,
Yes,
yep,
here it
they sure
is.
do. Well, see, like the eyes popped out.
Our
Um,
dog got a hold of it. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, usually it's the kids pulled the eyes out of it, and you're like, well, you're not supposed to yank on them. Oh well,
Oh,
the safety eyes. Woo. They're not
oh
really
yeah, yeah.
safe.
Well, yeah. I mean, I used to use those too. Bought a whole bunch
Mhm.
from Etsy back in the day. Wow,
Oh.
bringing back memories.
Oh yes, yes. I was this close to starting an Etsy shop. I mean, no lie.
Yeah.
And
Oh,
but I
you
was like,
should. I
I
mean, you've
stopped.
got, you could write,
Yeah.
you could like crochet characters and then, the characters that are in your novel and, then sell your novel and it's like, these are the characters that I created. You could have this whole
Mm,
thing going.
possibly.
Mm.
I don't know if I'm that
I sense a
talented yet,
certain
though.
amount of skepticism.
Mm. Yeah, I'm not that talented now. I make like, just the big heads and like the little arms and I'm good with that. But like that's about it.
Do you have any there? Do you have an example?
Ah, no, unfortunately, my daughter has them all in the room back there.
Oh, well,
Yeah.
yes. If I was 5, I probably would too. So,
Oh yeah, she loves it though. Yeah, I made her a ghost and she was just all over the moon about it.
oh,
So,
yeah.
of
Yeah.
course, it's thrown somewhere crazy and she is just how she is. Um, but yeah, I love the pattern of things, and it's another thing too with writing. I'm a pantser, but I'm like, I should be a plotter. I love pattern. I like to
Yeah.
figure things out. And I'm like, well, why am I not a plotter? So I picked up, um, the Save the Cat Writes a Novel,
Oh, yes. I love that book.
and I've been going through
Like
it little
Snyder,
bit by little
right?
bit.
Yeah, yeah.
Jessica Brody. Yeah,
Save the
Blake
cat?
Snyder.
Yeah, yeah.
Based on the books by Blake Snyder. This one's by Jessica Brody.
Oh, okay.
It's the novel
Oh,
version,
Save the Cat
not the
writes a
screen.
novel. Okay, I haven't
Yeah,
read that one. Okay, I'm gonna
yeah,
have to check that out.
it's so far I'm getting a really good like basis out of it, like a just really good like structure.
Hmm.
Because I thought my character was great. My main character in my new novel that I'm working on.
Mm-hmm.
I thought she was awesome because
Uh-huh.
she's sort of in your face, and she's just she's bad, But then I got disabused of that. I was like,
Why?
well,
Like, what? Like, because I picked up right away. You said I thought rather than I think. So what do you think went wrong with your character? Like, what aren't you happy about?
her what was it? Her What was it again? Her problem wasn't big enough.
Okay.
Like she didn't have a solution. Her problem was big, but she didn't have like a um a reason why she had the issues. And so this would be part of what they called a B story.
Mm-hmm.
Um so the B story would be, the character has an issue and it sort of plays throughout the whole novel.
Right. The B story, it's more about the heart, right? And it's more about the
Mhm.
internal stuff, the internal
Mhm.
weakness or need or lack or goal.
Right.
And then the A
Yeah.
story is like, that thing out there that they're trying to achieve, like sort of the
Mhm.
need versus the want. So what is your character's want? What is their external goal?
The external goal is to find where a bunch of missing people have been taken,
Okay.
and try to rescue missing people,
Mm-hmm.
try to find out what's happening to them. Um, and it gets pretty horrifying. I actually scared myself
That's going to be a
writing
good
down the
book then.
outline.
That is going to be a good book.
I was like,
I mean,
oh,
if
but
you
the kid.
can't scare yourself, nobody else is going to be. But if you're scared, then other people are going to be terrified.
Yes. Yes. It's like, it almost felt like something I might have dreamed about once. And I use my dreams a lot.
Oh, me
Um,
too. Oh, that's cool.
yes. And so does Stephen King, apparently. I'm like, you know
Yeah.
what? I see a pattern here.
Yeah, yeah.
There's been dreams from when I was really, really young that have made it just they stay in your psyche. When you're really young, they just
Mhm.
stay there
They
and
do.
they don't dislodge very easily. And I had one about Freddy Krueger.
Mm.
Yes.
Wow,
And
that must have been terrifying.
yeah, but I was an adult in my dream, but I was like 6 or 7 years old.
I've never had that.
And in my dream, he comes in. I'm working in a call center, handing out papers to people. And he comes in, he kills everybody. And then in the end, he's holding me in his hand, and I wake up screaming. Now, later on in life, when I was probably in my 20s, I worked for this call center
Oh my gosh.
that looked the exact same as the one in my dream.
Oh
No
my
joke.
gosh.
I was like, that's a good basis for a story right there. I'm like, you know what?
Yeah.
Deja vu.
Synchronicity. Wow.
Hmm. Yeah. So
That's really cool, actually.
yeah. So dreams. We were I guess, gonna talk about. Said you wanted to talk about some things. I'm gonna let you ask questions, I guess.
No, no, please, please. I mean, no, that's really interesting. That's something
Yeah.
I've sort of asked people about, and nobody yet has said, "Oh yeah, actually my dreams have come in handy." But maybe they didn't write horror. Maybe it's different for people who like horror.
It is. I should say it probably is. And see, my whole life, like, has led up to me writing horror, honestly. Like, my life is pretty macabre.
Hmm.
I've had a lot of, like, personal tragedy, and
Oh.
so, I write around it, and
Hmm.
sort of like it's an outlet,
That's good.
so, I've written there's lots of demonic stuff going on in my writing, a lot of demons.
Hmm.
Um, and of course, my friends are like, "Demons again, Jess? Why?
Not another one.
Not another one." It's like, I wrote a short story about a preacher who, he's plagued with self-doubt, and
Mhm.
he's kind of a drunk, and he's been accused of being a drunk and all this stuff, and he's at the church early morning, nobody's there, and he comes in and everybody's dead.
Mhm.
And it's the way that they're dead that he's like, well, this is weird. It's like a demonic thing. So
Mhm.
he's walking down the aisle, and at the end of the aisle is like a great big, like, stain, sort of a brimstone sort of stain on the floor.
Uh-huh.
And he's like, oh my God, what happened to my flock? And he gets to the end, and his wife's at the end. She's
Mhm.
passed. and she's holding a demonic book, and he trips out, and he sees the demon come in, and he starts to raise, like, something to hit the demon with, and then, like, it turns into his wife,
Ooh.
and
Oh.
there's nobody dead,
Oh, okay.
and he accidentally kills her. Yeah, yeah, I'm dark. It's really dark, and
Well, hey, I mean, look at Stephen King. I don't think it could be darker than Stephen King, and look at how many books he's sold. So,
mm, yeah, and, and I'm like so I think one of the things too that kinda gets me is the competition. So, like, I'm like, "Oh, there's so many people out there who write so well, who
but
write
there's
so much
only
better
one
than
you.
me."
No, no, there's only
Yeah, this
one
is
you.
true. Yeah, and so I'm like, "Well, how am I gonna get noticed?" So, like, but I don't go out writing stuff just to get noticed. Like, I don't
No,
purposefully do that. I'm not Flannery O'Connor, you know? I don't blow things out of proportion, on purpose. They just sort of happen.
well, yeah, I mean, like, I think I I mean, I haven't done a whole lot of interviews yet. I think you're my third, but the first two people, they were like, we've written all our lives because that's just what we do. Like, I think writers write, and I'm not
Mhm,
saying that all writers write every day, but I think it's just something that's in your soul. It's bred in
mhm.
the bone. I mean, that's what it seems to be like. I'm not saying every single writer was like that. I should read up about Dan Brown. I don't know if he wrote from a young age,
I'm
but
not sure. I
yeah.
have read quite a few of his books,
Mhm, mhm,
yeah, I don't know. And I think, he's a little inspiring too, just always
mm.
pumping them out. So
Well, I think it took me a while. Like, the first book that I read of his, like a lot of people, was the Da Vinci Code,
Mhm.
and I picked it up. I had picked it up several times and read the first paragraph and then put it back and gone, nope, nope, can't do it, not doing it, nope. And then the whole world had read him like a few times, and so I was like, okay, I have to do this because it's a cultural phenomenon. Like, I have to read it. So I bought
Mhm.
it, I read it, and he's a really good storyteller.
He is. A lot of his characters tend to be sort of the same type, like the same type of person, I've noticed. Digital Fortress and Angels and Demons, those are the 3 that I've read. Da Vinci Code and
Mhm.
Angels and Demons and then Digital Fortress. And I might have read one other one and I can't remember off the top of my head.
I think I read eight Da Vinci, Angels and Demons, and then one other. The one about the yeah, I can't remember the name.
Yeah,
I'm just
it's
gonna
been a
clip
while.
that out.
I read it's okay. I read Dean
Okay.
Koontz, like, and I actually wrote Dean Koontz there and got a letter back.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, with his signature on it and told me best
Oh
of luck in
nice.
your endeavors. But um I was going through a bit of a spell and I don't know how it happened, but I think it got thrown away.
Oh no, really?
Horrible. Yes, and I'm like, "Oh my god, I can't believe I did that." And because to me, I don't know, paper was paper at the time, and I just I was just upset with myself, I think, and for not writing. But I spent so many years on the cusp of just, you know, um, on the cusp of writing,
Mm.
on that teetering edge of, "Oh my god, I'm not writing, so therefore I'm horrible."
Oh no, yeah, no, that's just no.
Yes, I stayed there for a long time, probably a good 15 years.
Oh no, yeah,
Yeah.
that's too
Although I
bad.
was writing a little on the side, I was like, I would write poetry,
Mhm.
or I would write a journal, or I'd write just some weird snippet about how to make a good character,
Sure.
for myself.
Yeah. Yeah, and it doesn't always, like, what I meant by bread and the bone, I mean, it's not like we're always writing. I think there's sometimes, a writer, especially if you're going through something, sometimes it just, you end up in the desert, and the floor is cracked, and there's no vegetation. Maybe there's like a dying tree, like barely hanging on to existence in the horizon. But you go through these periods, you go through dry spells, where
Mhm,
it just doesn't happen. And I think, absolutely nobody should beat themselves up for not writing, you know
mhm.
because I think writing is
Yeah.
what feeds us, if it does. If that's the way it works out and we can write and it feeds us, then great. And if not, then that's good too.
Now I have, like, I think I was on what was that weird program? I think it was Grammarly, and it analyzes, like, it pulls everything on my Google, like, on my Google Docs. It pulled everything that I've written on my Google Docs, and it was something like over 150,000 words.
Ooh, nice.
And I was like, and I think that it hadn't even gotten through everything yet, and I'm like, "I have enough out there to have written a novel?" Hmm, and that was another thing too that inspired. Even though I personally do not recommend using Grammarly for anything grammar because it's not good for people who have like this, I have a tendency to write sort of my subject verb backwards a lot. Or what's this? Anyways, I go backwards on my poetry. I do tend to like, I write things different, and so every time that little red line would pop up, I'm like, "You're annoying me," and so I would turn it off. Like, I
Well,
turned it off.
what I found useful was, I have my favorite authors like Stephen King, Neil Gaiman, people like that. And so what I did is and they're wonderful writers, like so talented, brilliant prose. So I took large parts of their writing and I pasted it into Grammarly, or these kind of programs, right? And I saw what, okay, so I knew what Grammarly said about my writing. What do you say about this writing here? And I know this writing is good. I know it sold a whole lot of books. And there are complaints, right? Yes, do it. I challenge any writer who's feeling like a little bit, that they don't measure up grammar wise, because I mean, sentence fragments, for instance. I mean, a lot of writers use sentence fragments for emphasis. Like,
Mhm.
I think every writer needs to know. I'm thinking of my editor now. My editor is glaring at me right now. Going,
You need
Karen,
to
you do
know the
not have perfect
rules so
grammar.
you can break
But
them.
yeah, you do. You do. You need to have at least a passing acquaintance with the rules.
Yes. Oh, yes. And one of my go-to, just like a weird little books that sometimes just pick it up and read it, that's Drunk and White on
Oh yeah, yeah,
writing or
yeah. I like
not on
that. Yeah.
writing. Oh
What is it
gosh.
called? Here.
I have it right down here. It's over here on my shelf. Yep.
Elements of Style.
It's a style.
Let me say at the
I was
same
like, I
time.
pulled it up. I have I have gone through this book and gone through this book and gone through this book. And, sometimes it's good to have around just for like handy lookup tool.
Oh yeah,
Like,
yeah,
oh,
no,
what
definitely.
is that again? Oh, yeah. But sometimes I'm just bored
Hmm.
and I pick up my grammar book. Now, like,
That's when you know you're bored, when you pick up your grammar book.
I was like, and I'm also obsessed with words and,
Oh yeah.
I'm a worder and I really love the grammar and I love syntax. I just love it all. I'm like, well, how did you use that word? And so like, connotation, denotation,
Yeah.
love connotating.
Have you done any editing
Yes, actually I have.
professionally? Like, oh well, there,
Yes.
because you
Yes,
sound
I
like you'd
have.
be good at it.
Yeah, there for a while, I was working on Upwork, and
Mhm.
so I helped edit actually a book called HG39. And right now I can't remember the author's name because on Upwork you don't get like it's impersonal a
Mm.
lot. It's just really impersonal, and so I didn't really get to know the writer. In fact, I think I was actually talking to her husband a lot
Okay.
So, and we were trying to, she was Spanish speaking and she had wrote
Oh,
it
I
in
see. I
Spanish and he
see.
translated it to English for her, but it was a little
Right.
bit
Right.
disconnected. So, and so I had to help. I was helping her with that. And I edit a lot of like my friends' stuff, just like uh papers and stuff,
Hmm. Hmm.
I'm like, yeah, send me your papers, I'll edit your papers for you.
Oh, you're
It's
so
okay.
nice. You're adorable. Be my friend.
If I don't know what it is, I'll generally look it up. But I don't know the names of things. Like I don't know all the names of stuff. And I kind of figured that I'm never gonna know all the names of everything.
That's why
So I'm
God
just like,
made Google. So,
yes. So like there's a few of the people on Google. When I type them in, and if I see them there, I'm gonna click on her website. So there's one or two of them that I just love. And so I'm
hmm.
like, all right, let's look up this word, you know.
Hmm.
And it's just random, like random words pop in your head and they
Yeah.
just stay there.
Hmm.
Like today it was Brobdingnagian.
No. Okay. Educate me. What?
It's from Gulliver's Travels. You remember the Brobdingnagians were giants from
Uh huh.
Lilliput.
Uh huh. Oh, okay.
And so the word itself has joined the English language and has become a synonym or an adjective for extremely large, you
Okay.
know. It also just can mean giant
Hmm.
as a noun, as a
Hmm.
giant. And I looked that up today, so I'm like, gave me. I was like, I learned something new. And it was weird because the word got stuck in my head very randomly. Like, I don't even know where I saw it
Do you find
recently.
that sometimes when that happens, that there's something, it's pinging on something in your life? Like something happened, you dreamt about something and you've forgotten about it, you've
Mhm.
seen something, and it's like this little piece of you going,
Mhm.
just trying to make you notice something.
Yes. Oh, yeah. Yes. And I do that a lot too with numbers. So, Um, but yeah, I mean, I'll be like, hey, this is deja vu. But yeah, and a lot of times it happens mostly with songs,
Yeah,
I
yeah.
wake up in the morning with a song in my head every morning.
Oh,
And
really?
yes, it's
Is that
annoying.
I was gonna say, oh well, that's nice, but then I thought, boy, like, because I've had earworms before, or is that what they're called? Like when you can't get a
Yeah,
particular
you can't get, yeah,
repeating.
when you can't
Yeah,
get it out of your head. And right now, you can't get it out of my head. And it's just,
there we go.
ah, yes. Yeah, my friends used to call it, well, I have a friend of mine that calls it her soundtrack.
Okay.
But I wake up with a song in my head. And sometimes it's something cool, but other times it's like, you know, some weird song. Like I think I had one from Beauty and the Beast stuck in my head yesterday.
Hmm.
Tale as old as time.
Yeah, the other day I rewatched Let It Go from Frozen.
Mm-hmm.
Like, oh my, it was in there
Oh,
for
now
days,
that's in my head.
days. Now I'm just giving it to you, haven't I?
Dang. Don't make me sing on here now. Nobody wants to hear that.
Do you sing?
Yes.
Oh, really? Oh,
Yes, I
that's so
do.
lovely.
I
Like
do.
I was in the choir when I was a teenager, but I won't say that I was particularly good.
I was a soprano. I was the first soprano, but I think my voice has dropped since high
Oh yeah,
school. But
I was
yeah,
either alto or second soprano.
yeah, and I used to be able to get really high. Now I'm just like, ugh,
I
I
always
can't go
wanted to
that high
be.
anymore, y'all.
I wanted to be a soprano. I cried when they said second soprano. I was like, no.
Oh, yeah, I just wanted to hit that high G. I'm like, give me that high G, and I did. Like, it was like the only solo I ever got. And it was while everyone else was singing. I'm
Oh,
like,
you
that's
had
not
a
a solo.
solo. So this was
It
in
was a solo.
it was in school, or you were in a choir, another sort of choir?
I was in let's see, I was in choir and chorus in school
In course, right?
from 5th grade through 11th grade.
Mm.
So
And then
I had
you left it after that? You stepped away?
yeah, I wanted to take some other elective, that would I wanted to take art, and learn how to draw, and learn how to paint or mold with clay. I just love working with my hands.
Oh yeah, yeah, me too.
Yeah. But yeah, I was in something called concert choir, and so
Hmm.
we actually sang we sang at the Dixie Stampede, the Bluegrass Festival. We sang at that. And somewhere down in like Orlando somewhere because we were Disney World. So we sung down there, but I don't remember anything about it.
Hmm.
So like I remember visiting Disney World. That was like the only thing I remember. Um so but a lot of traveling around, a lot of staying in hotels and stuff with a bunch of girls, and getting into fights and
Fun
arguments
times,
and
fun times.
yeah,
Yeah.
I'm like, why did you use the last towel?
Oh
I'm
yeah, yeah.
sorry. Didn't know it was the
Memories,
last one.
memories.
Yeah. Kids.
Yeah.
It was a
No,
lot
no.
of
I mean,
fun.
we went on. I remember we're getting a little far afield from writing, but that's okay. Like I remember when I was in choir and we went on these field trips, and then we would get billeted out to like local families in the place we were staying at, which
Oh
was
wow.
very interesting. Like I still remember some of the people that I billeted with. They were quite unusual, and yeah, it's I think it's great that I hope that young people these days sound like such an old person. I hope that young people these days still do things like that.
I do too, honestly. And I think that they do. Friends of mine have kids that are in high school, and they're always talking about ban this and ban that. And I'm like, chorus. Because for me, I always wanted to learn how to play an instrument, but was too scared to after middle school because I was like, they're just gonna laugh at me. I'm not gonna do it. And I was like, man, I should
Yeah,
have learned something.
this seems to be kind of like a thing with you. Like I know
Mhm,
we're strangers and everything like this, but I've talked to you a little bit here, and it
mhm,
seems like you're kind of self-critical. But
a
it's
bit.
you
Yeah.
strike me as being actually you're very personable, very easy
Mhm.
to talk to, very open.
I try.
You're talented. I think you're talented. I mean, you can sing, you can draw, you can do these things. And I think you sorry, I'm just gonna be that person, all right? I think you need to just take a step, right? I think you
Mhm.
just need to send your stuff out. Like even if you don't get an editor, I don't think it would be a bad idea to get a good content editor, like get a second opinion on your work. But I think the number one thing that you need to do is to send your stuff out. I challenge you to do that.
Challenge accepted.
Okay.
Send stuff out. I'm writing myself notes.
Okay.
Send your stuff. I may write a different word that I'm just kidding. Out.
Sorry.
That's
Stuff. I
that
mean
makes
that
sense.
yeah, that's sort of inelegant. Send your wonderful words, your your stories, your
Send out your
visions.
humor. Send out your blood, sweat, and tears, people, because this is the only thing that's going to get you noticed. I could be a motivational speaker.
There we go. That's another thing. And you said I think you said like you were talking about like when you maybe you don't write a lot, but you write a little bit about writing. I don't know if you put it like that, but you
Mhm,
like about how to
mhm,
like and you're reading uh not Blake Schneider's, but Save the Cat, writing a novel.
mhm,
So have you written a lot about have you written anything about writing? Like I saw that you have a blog, like
mhm.
a beautiful, wonderful blog,
Oh,
and which
I read it.
I'm going to put that in a link in the description so
Oh
people can
wow.
go see that. But
Now I
have
got to
you?
work on it again.
There we go. So have you written much about writing? I didn't
Mhm.
notice that you had written like a lot about writing on your blog. I just looked at the first few entries.
Yeah, there's not a whole lot in the blog right now, mostly because, like, I was going through some pretty dark periods.
Hmm.
So, the main thing I was writing about, I think I started one, I don't know if I actually published it. I think I did, on depression and writing.
Oh,
Um, talking about, talking about like how it affects your writing and how it helps to kind of pull you out of that funk. Now, that may not even be what I actually said because, I'm horrible at remembering.
no, I
I
mean, why don't you
don't
send
remember
me the link to
what I
that
said
post and
exactly.
I'll put it in the description as well. Because I
Hmm.
think that would help a lot of people.
Yeah, yeah. And it has been something that I do work on though quite a bit. It'll come to me and be like, well, what makes a good character? And so I just sit down with myself and I'm like, well, self, what do you think makes a good character? Well, what makes this character good from this certain book that you really liked? And I'll just sort of ask myself questions. And, I know I sound like a complete just weirdo, but I'm like,
You sound like
and
a
I'm not,
writer. That's what you sound like.
oops. Oh, um,
Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. Please
oh no,
continue.
it's okay. But I'm like, I just get on a roll sometimes and, you know, with writing about stuff like that, and yeah, to answer your question, because I think I kind of got off base. Yes, I do write about writing sometimes, and it is fun.
Hmm.
To be semi-critical of myself and also not really critical of myself and be like, hey, this is what you're doing right and this is what you're doing wrong. Even though, like, I'm not like an expert, I'm like, but I know my own brain, like, I know my brain, I know who I am, kind of, you know. We're on that soul searching thing our whole lives, it's all we're gonna be doing.
Yeah, and I mean, like myself, I feel like, well, like my blog grew out of, my own journey to become a better writer, like, and to understand, like for me at least, like what is a good story
Mhm,
and how can I improve, like, and maybe what works for me works for other people. And I really believe that in order for me to learn something, the best way to learn something is to teach it,
mhm,
right?
mhm,
So I think it's really a really really good thing for writers to write about writing, like, and write from their experience, like, what have I learned, because that is completely and totally valid. It's just like we all write from our own perspective. Actually, this is one thing I wanted to ask you. I read a quotation the other day. I can't remember who it was from, but it says basically like we all write we all write one story. We all write variations of one story. And I mean, like, you see, I don't know if you ever, I think a lot of, maybe this is a stereotype, maybe this is a horrible stereotype that I'm perpetuating, but I know when I was a young person, and maybe even like now occasionally, I will read the odd romance novel. And there's a JD Robb, actually. I know what's her name. It's she's actually better known. Okay, I'm sorry, this is gonna bother me.
Nora Roberts?
Yeah, Nora Roberts. There you go.
Yeah. The only one I know. You're like, "Ah." I have read a lot of stuff like that too myself, so,
Okay, well, there
yeah.
we have our confessions round. Uh, but you notice, or at least I noticed, like there are some people like Stephen King, like he writes a whole bunch of different kinds of stories. Like
Mhm,
he wrote the novella that Stand By Me was based on.
mhm.
He's written like Shawshank Redemption, like the story that was based on. But he's
Love
also
that one.
written like, Under the Dome, and he's Pet Cemetery, and like
Mhm,
he can do everything, right? And there are some
mhm,
writers like that. But there are a lot of other writers like, Nora Roberts, and other people who basically stick to a particular genre. Like she has branched out like a few times, but she basically does romance really well, and then she throws in maybe a mystery or maybe a little bit of sci-fi, and but basically she knows she does a romance well, and so she'll write one basic story but variations of it, right? And all of
Mhm.
the variations are different enough that we're entertained, right?
Mhm.
And I was wondering what you thought of that. Like you're well read. Like I mean, and look at like JD or JK Rowling, right? I mean, she did the Harry Potter books, and she does have the Cormoran Strike novels, which I do enjoy. But I find that even like the most successful authors tend to stick to fairly constrained genre. What do
Mhm.
you think about that? Have you?
Hmm. That does touch on a bit of a thing that I've always struggled with because I
Okay.
have several different genres that I have written in.
Mhm.
Um, I experiment in a lot of stuff. Um, Sleazy dime-back detective novels, I go that route sometimes. I go, like one of my characters, his name was Bode Will, and it just stuck with me. I was like, "That's a really good name."
Bode, I love that.
Yeah, Bode, and I was like, because he couldn't abide things, like, "Okay." I don't know, it went off on a tangent there for a little while, and I might pick that one back up, but, I do, I haven't dabbled in westerns or anything like that, but I do, fantasy, science fiction, horror, obviously, regular fiction. I wrote a piece about a couple of girls who get scared by a hobo jumping off of a train because they're trying to stay up late to, um, I guess, sort of like pass a bet to get
Okay.
to keep their mom from leaving and going back home. So they want their mom to stay, like, well, they all want to stay there and with their grandmother during a wartime. And so they end up, they lose the bet
Hmm.
because the train scares them and they can't stay out all night. So, and I wrote it based off a story that my mom told me, which was it was exactly the same except for there was no bet. It
Hmm.
was just, y'all can't stay out there all night. And then here comes the train, middle of the night, back. The train's like less than like 200 or 300 yards from their house. So, it was spooky. So I've written stuff like that. Um, and I just dabble in a little bit of this and a little bit of that. I've done some romancy type stuff and some erotica, of course, but
I
nothing
think
that
every
sticks.
single writer has.
I'm like, it gets deleted the second that it gets written. I'm sorry, guys. I'm sorry. I've had
Oh,
guys ask
okay.
me for to write stuff like that, and I'm like, no,
Yeah.
no, nothing against those writers. I'm sure they're really good at what they do. I have read some that are, a little risque, but no, I haven't read 50 Shades. No, I haven't read it. I pick up just romance novels, back when I was like 10, between 10 and 12. See, this was my formative years.
Hmm. Hmm.
Of
Look, I think every
I picked up
single
read everything.
person at some point or another has read a romance novel. So,
My one of my parents' friends gave them like a big giant used box full of them and just gave them to me for some reason. I'm like, why did you give me a bunch of romance novels? I'm 10. I don't need romance novels. But, I
uh,
loved it. I just, I got into it for a little while. I was reading them and some of the stories were great. Like there was one that was very like it was set in a medieval time period.
okay.
And I was like, I really like that. But and I might like fantasy romance. I've never tried it.
Mm,
But I might because I love fantasy. So um but yeah, I actually have a book that I have been trying to work on now. It is a fantasy novel, but it's about a necromancer who gets kicked out of town for setting a zombie on somebody.
As one does, as one does.
Yeah. She's sort of like an anti-hero. You know,
My
she's kind
favorite
of a bad
kind.
guy.
Yeah,
Yeah, she's
yeah,
sort of
yeah.
a bad guy. She has her own agenda. She's like, mm-mm, you know, this girl, she slept with my boyfriend thing, and and the guy that I'm in love with, she slept with him. So now, like, now I must send like a zombie after her. But they're all magic, so the zombie got killed anyways. Just gonna scare her. 'Cause
Right, right.
nobody does,
Basically harmless, I mean,
right, yeah,
who wouldn't do
harmless.
that? Come on, stole her
Mhm,
boyfriend.
mhm.
She deserves the zombie.
Stole the boyfriend and ended up, getting caught at it and forced to get married to the guy, so, like, yeah, so she can never have the guy anymore, so,
Oh, so
anyways,
this is
sort
getting
of
more
a
complicated now.
yeah, it was I've spent, probably a good 3 or 4 years writing on that one. It's still in the works. I did have a map drawn. I
Did
drew my own
you?
map.
I can't remember her name now. She wrote Guilty Pleasures. Laurel K. Hamilton, I think. Did you ever read any of
Mm,
her? Like, I
mm-mm.
enjoyed the first few books of her series, but
Oh, okay.
yeah. Well, Guilty Pleasures, actually, you might like it. I liked the first like 3 or 4 books of that series. But do you have you read Jim Butcher's Harry Dresden series?
Uh,
Yeah,
yes.
yeah.
In fact, in fact, I
You're
started reading them because my current novel that I'm working on is about a private investigator.
oh, okay.
And he ends up being magical.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
And I was talking about the book with my ex-husband,
mm-hmm.
the one that I'm working on, and he says, "You should read the Dresden Files. Is it anything like that?" And I'm like,
Dresden Files.
"Don't know, but I'll read them." So, and the whole reason why I read it was because I was writing that book. But also, when I started reading it, I was going through a period of time where I wasn't really into reading.
Mm,
Stuff that I was picking up, I just didn't like.
mm-hmm.
And it was after right because when I got out of college in 2015, I graduated with a BA in English, by the way.
Mm,
Woohoo!
nice.
But so I didn't want to read anything after that. I was burnt out for
Mm-hmm. Oh, I could see
5
that.
years.
Mm-hmm.
5, 6 years. So I just started reading Harry uh December maybe. I think it
Okay.
was about December, November, December.
So that's when you started
And
reading like the Dresden Files series.
yes, and he is Jim Butcher. If he ever watches this, dude, you are like seriously responsible for me starting to love books again.
Oh, nice.
Kudos to you. Seriously. Like
Mm-hmm.
he is great. And I just love those books. And sort of like I thought that reading something similar to what I was writing was gonna sort of like cause me to write similar to him,
Mm,
but it's not having that effect at all. What it's doing is it's showing me a different way to write.
mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Because mostly I don't do first person. I
Yeah.
do a lot of just third person limited
Okay.
is the way I write
Mm-hmm.
mostly.
Mm-hmm. That's a popular,
And
yeah, perspective.
yeah, and so but he was using first, and I'm like, but, the character, I love Harry Dresden, I really love him, and I'm like, "But man, he's got some issues." But, you don't really get a whole lot of it, you don't really I mean, he'll tell you straight up, like, that he's staring at some woman's rack and, what he's thinking about and stuff, and then but you're reading, you're just like, "Oh," you just sort of accept it, and then you go back and you think about it, and I'm like, "You know, oh, he's a typical man." But,
Yeah,
I
yeah.
I love the character, I really
Oh
do.
no, yeah, no, I love. Have you? He has a life journal where he's written about writing.
Oh,
It's
does
it's
he?
it's a, yeah, it's a series of posts. I'll include it in the make a note. Live journal. I'll leave a link to it, and it's really really great advice.
Oh,
And his
yeah.
in the if you look at what is it, Stormfront, I believe that's the first book in the series,
Mhm.
and he in the dedication, he mentions Deborah Chester, which is one of his mentors slash teachers when he went to school, and she wrote a book. I think it's something fiction formula. I'll leave another link in the description, but it's a really good book. It's a really good book, and she comes from a long like tradition of successful genre writers who
Mhm.
have really studied the art form. So I highly recommend that if you're
Um,
interested.
oh, yes, definitely.
Actually, okay, so I feel like you're getting tired and you've been very generous with your time, but there's one last question I have for you before you go. Okay?
Mhm.
So, if you could go back and give your younger self one tip as pertains to writing, something that you've learned, what would you
Mm.
tell your younger self?
Hmm. Pick up a pen and just do it. Stop sitting on the pot. You got ideas up here. There's things in your head that are itching to get out. Just do it. Write down whatever comes to mind. Stick with something. That's another big thing for me. Stick with it because too often when I was younger, I bounced from one thing to the next. Another thing over here, another thing over there. Stick with one little thing, flesh it out. If it doesn't work, do the Stephen King thing, throw it away.